Hello, everybody. Dr. Mary with 4 Points Family Chiropractic. I am coming to you from the allergy central of the world right now. But if you are joining us, I'm actually here to talk about fasting and how it's going to be helpful and impactful to your metabolic health. So let's get the first thing off play here. It's not a fad. It is a great strategy for a lot of different things, and that'll depend on your lifestyle, your blood work, your fatigue levels, your hormones. All of that'll really influence the way you choose to use fasting. But just to kind of run through some of the things that fasting helps with overall is going to be insulin sensitivity. So that's the big one. It lowers the amount of circulating insulin in your body, and that allows your insulin receptors to kind of reset. So they become more sensitive, and that way your glucose regulation is just overall improved. So the way that your body utilizes the energy that you put in the form of food. So when you're fasting, it's associated with lower levels of diabetes type 2. It reduces your visceral fat, which is the dangerous fat that lives right alongside your organs, and it improves most of your metabolic syndrome markers. So if you're not sure what those markers are, if you go back a few videos, I do talk about metabolic health markers and ways that you can be monitoring that on your own. One of my favorite things that fasting does is something called autophagy. And this is when your body cleans up cells that are almost dead or are dead. And that happens because your body can start re-diverting energy into that cleanup. It's a natural process, but it gets amplified when you're fasting. It's your body's recycling system. So what that does, autophagy, is it removes damaged proteins so that those can't become problems for you. It does mitochondrial repair. It reduces your inflammation. There's potential longevity support, and it's neuroprotective. And it generally increases in the body when you've been fasting for about 16 to 18 hours, and it's more significant around a 24 plus hour fast. But I'll get in a minute to how to time those and how to decide what you're going to do. It also will, if you're fasting, release growth hormone, which is good for muscle preservation, and it helps you with tissue repair overall. Your cardiovascular health will also improve. So studies have shown that you will get improvements when you're fasting in your LDL, so the bad type of cholesterol. The particle size for that will decrease. Your triglycerides can be impacted positively, your blood pressure, and your general C-reactive protein, which is a inflammation marker for general inflammation in the body. Fasting will also improve your brain health. And that's actually something I hear from a lot of people, and I myself have noticed when I'm fasting. The first little bit's not fun, right? Because you're hungry, and you're a little bit upset about being hungry, you're trying to keep your mood good, and then when your body switches into using ketones in your brain, your energy goes up, there's more mental clarity, your brain fog goes away. So if you can make it through those first few hours, the improvement in your brain and your cognitive health is also definitely notable. And fasting increases your brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which we've talked about before on our Facebooks, and your ketone production. So the cognitive clarity is always a nice little surprise, even if that's not what you're going for when you do it. Now, in this talk, I'm going to be talking about the two different groups of people that can fast just based off of gender. And that's because the way a male body and the way a female body utilize fasting and do fasting are two very different strategies. So I'm going to talk about men first because you guys have it a little easier in this. So your cycle's different. Men cycle on a 24-hour testosterone cycle. Women cycle on approximately a 28-day cycle that involves estrogen and progesterone. So men can do fasting based off of days. Women have to do it based off of months. So I'm going to be reading that off to you just so I can get specific here in a minute. But fasting's a stressor on your body, and that's something to remember. So the goal is metabolic flexibility, not chronic stress. And the reason I say that is even though men have it easier with fasting, you still need to be timing it in a way that makes sense for your life. So don't be fasting if you're in like a very stressed state. If you have a project due at work, don't do it if you're sick. Don't do it if you're not sleeping. Those are all things that need to be well and truly in place so that the fasting can do what it needs to do instead of just wearing you down and breaking you down. So most of the windows that men will use are going to be longer periods of time. So the one that I see the most is like 14 to 16 hours of fasting and then an 8 to 10 hour eating window. And that's really good for people that are having insulin sensitivity. They want to be losing weight, they want stable energy, and it's more sustainable in that, that division of time. Like it's easier to keep up with. So most people will do it. They'll finish dinner by 7 and then they won't eat again until 11 or 12 the next day. So it's just like a smaller period of time that they're eating. Longer periods are 8 to 24 hours, and I wouldn't do that every day. That's like a 1 to 2 times a week thing. That's good for fat oxidation, the ketone production, so making sure you're getting that brain fog out, and the autophagy stimulation. Other people will do a 36 to 48 hour fast. I don't recommend doing those very often. You should do those much less frequently, but those will be deeper autophagy. So like really getting the body to clean itself out. And if you are like at a plateau trying to lose weight or something and you want to like break through that, that would be what you would use that for. But I really like for people to do that when they've had their blood work done and they're under the care of a doctor that's monitoring them, because it's just a real big stressor on the body. And even if you don't think you're stressed, you might be stressed. So talk to somebody before you do that. Now, in regards to training, so this will be true for women and for men. When you are fasting, you want to be focusing on zone 2 cardio. So you're going to be monitoring your heart rate, but zone 2 cardio is low intensity, steady state. That's what you want to be at, making sure your heart rate stays in that second zone. You can do moderate resistance training, and it's for like fat adaptation. If you are fed, like you're eating and then you're doing a workout, that's going to be better if you're lifting. So make sure that that's when you're picking up weights and doing max lifting efforts, you're going for PRs, you're doing compound days, or you have like a long endurance event. So like somebody who's running a half marathon, don't be fasting before you run that half marathon. That's a terrible idea. You want to do that well fed. Even if you're like, say you're not running a marathon, you're just going to like be walking the day at Disney. Don't do that fasted. That's not low intensity, steady state. You've been to Disney. That's a high stress environment. Don't do that. So just make sure you're timing it at a certain time that's good for you. And the overall thing to take away from this as well is if you're fasting, you have to be paying attention to your protein intake. You must. I know I talk about this a lot. I don't think I've done one of these Facebook Lives recently where I haven't talked about your protein intake. You need to be paying attention to the grams and how much you get, because it keeps your muscles from breaking down. So you should be getting 0.7 to 1 grams of protein per lean muscle mass. So do that math, have an idea of what your protein goals should be, hit your protein goals. Men, do pay attention if you're fasting and you're getting poor sleep or you're losing muscle mass. Stop. Don't do it anymore. You want to make sure that you're getting adequate protein, and that's probably not happening. You can always revisit. Okay. Fasting as a woman is a different game altogether. And I am pulling all of this from this amazing book called Fast Like a Girl by Dr. Mindy Peltz. Her book is fantastic. It's research-based. It's very easy to absorb. I'm going to condense a whole bunch of stuff down into talking points, but I highly recommend that you get that book and read it if this is something that you are considering doing. So most research is based on men. Hers is based on women. And I really appreciate that because, again, our cycle is totally different, right? So our hormonal cycle is about 28 days, and it depends on the estrogen and progesterone shift. So that means that our insulin sensitivity is much more sensitive, our cortisol response is much more strong, and our thyroid output changes throughout the month. So we have to be matching that energy in certain ways throughout the month. So we're more sensitive to perceived stress because traditionally in the way our bodies work, we're sensitive to making sure that we can hold a pregnancy, basically. So we're going to be more reactive to changes in fed state, and you just want to be hitting the hormones at the right time. Low energy and high stress, which again, fasting is a stress, will down-regulate the hormones. You'll create a whole bunch of problems that you don't want. So the first phase is the menstrual stage, right? Day 1 through day 5-ish. Your estrogen and your progesterone are at their lowest. Your best fasting window is going to be about 13 to 15 hours. It's gentle. You don't want to overdo it. Bone broth is really helpful. Mineral support. You can get like liquid minerals that you can put in your water. That's a really good thing to consider. Your body's already naturally detoxing. Your insulin sensitivity is decent in your menstrual stage, and your inflammation is elevated. You might have noticed. So you want to avoid too much long stressors. As far as physical activity goes, this is when you're going to do light movement. You're going to do walking, stretching. Don't do like high intensity HIIT workouts or lifting or anything like that. You want to make sure you're not feeling dizzy. There's no increase in fatigue or cramping that gets worse with low blood sugar. So just don't risk those. If those are what you're noticing, don't fast. Phase 2 would be your follicular phase. So that's day 6 through 10-ish. Your estrogen is going up. Your insulin sensitivity is improving. Your best fasting window is going to be 16 to 24 hours. If you can tolerate the 24 hours, do not start it right there. You can work your way up to it. Do it over a couple months if you're just starting this. Those 24-hour fasts for women, you're only going to want to do them occasionally anyway. But this is kind of the metabolic sweet spot. This is where you're going to do the most work. Your estrogen is enhancing your insulin sensitivity naturally. Your growth hormones going up naturally, and you'll be more brain clear. You might have noticed that as well. So this is when you can do strength training. You can do HIIT workouts. You can shoot for a PR. You can do higher intensity well, and you'll feel better. Make sure you're getting your good sleep. Again, good sleep's going to make a lot of your decisions here. And if you notice that your cycle shortens and your cycle's coming back faster than it typically does, don't fast during this period of time. All right, day 3 is ovulation. That's about day 11 to 15. So that's when your estrogen peaks. You get a little testosterone bump. You're going to be fasting for 15 to 18 hours. Do not do the 24-hour fasts, right? That's too much stress on the body. This is when you would be preparing for a pregnancy potentially. So you don't want to overstress the body here because it'll mess everything up. Your body's prioritizing reproduction, even if you're not going to do it. Cortisol sensitivity is higher, and you need adequate protein at this time. Again, protein. You can overshoot on this cycle for these 5 days. Strength training still okay. You're going to be not shooting for PR, but you'll probably get them because you're stronger because of the testosterone bump, and you don't want to do fasted endurance during this time. Watch for headaches. If you feel like you're getting a headache, make sure you're hydrating and getting enough protein. Phase 4 is the luteal phase. That's the last few days. That's when your progesterone goes up and your metabolic rate increases up to 300 calories a day. So you're going to do 12 to 14 hours max of fasting. Some women do better with no fasting during this period of time. I do. I can't fast during this time. I get grumpier than I already am. I get sick. I get migraines. So test it. You can see if you do better with fasting, but often the luteal phase fasting doesn't go so great for us. Your body just needs more glucose during this time. Your sensitivity decreases. Your caloric needs go up, and you don't want to lower your progesterone or disrupt your thyroid too much, which is what fasting during this period can do. So you can do zone 2 training here. You can do low intensity steady state. You can do moderate strength training. I don't really like to, but no calorie deficits really. Pay attention again to sleep. Cravings. Sometimes the cravings are giving you information. If you are craving more meat or nuts, you might have like an iron deficiency or a magnesium deficiency. Just pay attention to what you want. Generally avoid the sugar in the chocolate. I'm not saying like go after every craving, just pay attention to what you're craving because it can give you information. But you don't want to mess with your hormones. If you are, you'll get little signs. You might notice like your hair is changing thickness, you feel cold all the time, your cycle changes or shortens or goes away. That's no good. That's all stuff to pay attention to. This is, by the way, I'm sure you've noticed some of the stuff I'm giving you. This isn't something that you implement and you like nail it right away, right? You have to figure out how your body is going to be reacting to fasting if you choose to do it. It's going to happen faster for men because they can do 24-hour cycles and figure it out within a month. It's going to take women like 3 to 4 months to really figure out what is the best way to cycle in the fasting. So just give yourself some grace if you're deciding to do that, because again, fasting is a stressor, and in the right phase, if you do it right, it builds resilience and metabolic health. But if you do it wrong, then it can really mess some things up. So if you do have any questions about any of this, talk to one of us. We are happy to do this. All of this depends on whether or not your nervous system is working appropriately. Because it is a stressor, if it sends you into a sympathetic state, then it's going to set everything off, right? You're going to get things like the migraines, the anxiety, the sleep problems. So knowing your status, whether or not you have a healthy nervous system, is one of the big things we recommend. If that's something you need assessed, or you know somebody that needs it assessed, we do that all day, every day. Somebody can come in and get the full assessment, looking at your neurological health, any necessary orthos, x-rays if we need to diagnose any issues with your nervous system. All of that is normally $348. We offer it for $147 if you mention this fasting video, or that you're interested in getting that checked out. We're happy to do that. So we do better with rhythm. So it's not so much, should I fast? It's where in my cycle should I do it and how should I do it? You don't need to fast harder, just smarter. All right, how to make it more comfortable. Because, okay, I struggled with this a lot. Fasting, it's not my favorite. I like to eat. I like to be fed. That hunger feedback to my brain can really mess with my mood. But then I realized after reading Dr. Mandy's book, it was because I was doing it absolutely wrong, at the wrong time, in the wrong way. I was doing it for too long, and I wasn't hitting the protein goals that I needed to. So I've been doing intermittent fasting now for about a year and a half, and I've noticed a lot of really positive changes in my health. I haven't reworked blood work on myself yet. That's something I'm planning on doing in April. But there's some values that I'd like to check on and see if they're doing better. But there are a lot of tips I can give you to make it more comfortable. So when you are doing the fasting, your insulin lowers, right? But that makes your kidneys secrete more sodium. So it's easier to get dehydrated. And I'm guilty of this. I get to work and I get working and I totally forget to drink my water, or I'm sipping on a coffee instead, because you can have black coffee when you're fasting. That won't break your fast, technically. You can also have green tea. That's a tip that helps curb your appetite. If you're having trouble with appetite, you can do black coffee or green tea, and that'll help a little bit. You have to stay hydrated. You can put sea salt in your water. There are a lot of electrolyte powders that are out there. I like Element. I think they have some good flavors. The little packets, I don't really agree with the dosage. I do less. I do like a third to a half of one of those packets in a big bottle of water. Make sure you're getting potassium-rich foods in your eating window. A lot of hunger headaches are actually sodium depletion, so just make sure you're keeping that up. You should be shooting for 2 to 3 liters of water a day. My goal is always a gallon. I hit it probably once a week, maybe, but at least if I'm shooting for a gallon, I'm almost there. Keep that in mind. You can do sparkling water if you're having any appetite issues as well. You make sure break your fast properly. So make sure that when you are adding food back in, you're doing it in a way that does not undo everything that you just did. Don't break your fast with like sugar. It might be something that your brain tells you want, but you don't want to do it with sugar. It's going to spike that blood sugar and your insulin, and you are going to crash later. You're going to feel so sick. So you want to avoid sugar spikes. Leverage protein first, healthy fats second, complex carbs and fibers third. Build your meal around your protein. When you have your protein goals, set aside, if you know your feeding window, you're going to do 2 to 3 meals, divide it up and make sure that you are building each meal around protein. The body maxes out on protein absorption at about 40 grams. So there's no need to do more than 40 grams a meal. Try to divide it up that way. But that's how to build your meals, is around your protein and then around fat and then around fiber. If you're new to fasting, like I said earlier, don't go right for the 18 to 24 hours. I'm stubborn. That's what I tried to do, and it was real bad. Start with like 12. Start with a 12-hour fast. It's much gentler. It's an easier way to convince your liver you're not going to die, your stomach, the world's not over, that you're not putting food in it. Make sure you're working up to it. Just add 30, 60 minutes a week. Make it easy on yourself. Don't jump right to the 24. Please make sure you're sleeping good. I've said it several times, but if you're not sleeping well, then your cortisol is going to be overloaded if you fast. And the cortisol levels are going to throw everything into disarray. Make sure you're sleeping good quality sleep. And then if you're fine, then you can add in the fasting. if you're having a period of time where you're having a hard time sleeping, just reduce your fasting window, add carbs at dinner. That'll help with your sleep, or focus on your recovery first. Just put it off and wait. Don't fast during an illness. Don't fast during major life stress. If you're overtraining for something, like if you're going for, I keep using the marathon because that seems like the most stressful thing ever to me. But if you're going to be training for like a big run and you haven't been fasting during that training, don't add it at that time. Fasting, again, works best when the nervous system feels safe. So when you are in parasympathetic, not fight or flight, again, that is something that we assess. We check it from several different angles in our office to make sure that you are not overloaded, that you are not in a sympathetic state. If you're in fight or flight, it won't work. It'll put you in a bad state. So if you do need to get assessed for that, if you know somebody that needs to, they can come in and get the full assessment. It's the nerve study that shows us where the nerves are irritated, any necessary orthos, a consult with a doctor, any necessary x-rays. It's normally $348. We'll do it for $147 if somebody's interested in getting assessed before they start fasting, if they mention this Facebook Live video. So this is all about metabolic switching and whether or not we can do it. A fed state is growth, a fasted state is repair. Both are necessary. They are both so good for overall health. And again, for all of those values I mentioned earlier. You want to make sure that your protein intake is adequate. That's the big takeaway, that your electrolytes are maintained, your sleep is protected, and that you are not pairing it with a stressful time in your life. So go ahead and give it a try. Let us know how you like it. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the comments here. You can also email us, or if you're a patient in our office, just grab one of us and ask us, and we are happy to answer. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you around.